This is the 7th day of October, and we're out here in the bean field, and you notice how many beans are available. You notice in the background also there's a natural food source, those hedge apples. So you got the beans, the hedge apples, and then right here you have the pure attraction. And it's really intriguing how big those growed. This is a situation where I won't be able to plant this here next year. You notice the forage oats in there also. Pretty much well weed free. But you have your pure attraction, your egg beans, your natural forage, and then as you pan over from the other spot, your corn. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of food right here. Plus those trees in the background are white oaks. They didn't drop a lot of oaks this year, but in the past they do. So you'd have basically, from where I'm standing, 5 sources of food on any given year. And I want to take you over here and show you something. Now what you're looking at, that green in there, is those forage beans. Now the deer have finally gravitated to that. This was your sun hemp. In the power plant, which I have my doubts about, but finally you can actually see the browsing effect as they come in here and still browsing on these green forage beans. And so they're hitting them and doing pretty well at it. You know, that's something you can plant. But I also want to show you something else. You can see that a whole lot better now. You can see where they're nibbling off the top to those forage beans. But this is October, so it's far cry from a spring summer forage here in the Midwest that I found. But what it is, there's a cocklebur right there. Now that's got, I don't know how many seeds is on it. So sometimes this power plant acts more like a nurse crop for undesirable weeds. This is your tall tine tubers. Now I want to wander over here and show you something. This is for you guys that plant soybeans. These soybeans right here, you can see they're not very, they've been browsed on pretty extensive. And the tops got ate off. That's why it's really essential. You have to plant a lot of acres of beans, especially for you guys that have limited amount of acres. Now, as we wander over here and you get out in the middle of the bean field, you'll notice the population and the density of the beans is greater. Now those beans there, those beans are waist high. I'll get out here to prove a point. Okay, there's the bean. I don't know if I can get this in there or not. There's my pocket on my pants, and they're up to my pocket. And you can see there's thousands and thousands of beans waiting, you know, out there. And as you get back over toward where on the edge, and this is what happens when you plant minimal amount of egg beans, is we venture back over here, same field, over here close to the edge, and you can see now that those beans aren't even up to they're about calf high. But they sustained a lot of browsing pressure. Egg beans wouldn't be a good fall annual or food source, like this area right in here, they definitely browsed it down. Now, if you only had a quarter acre or less, you can imagine the devastation that they would do. So you may want to go with something, the forage bean type, to where they keep growing back, because they really get devastated. Yeah, we're out here this morning, beautiful morning. I want to make a statement on one thing and get this clear. There's a lot of so-called protein mixes out there, deer attractants and all that. And you know my opinion if you followed this channel. I totally disagree with those. Totally. And some people are going to say, well, you're nothing but a two-faced son of a, you know the rest of it. You plant food plots to attract deer. Nope. Wrong. I don't plant food plots to attract deer. I plant food plots to attract wildlife. From the smallest to the largest, and in this case it would be the white-tailed deer. My main concern about this so-called shake and bake that all these so-called pro-staff people and these basically pimps of product that are using the deer herd as no more than prostitutes on the street corner to get your money, your bucks out of your pocket into theirs. When you congregate the deer to a pile of dope, per se, protein in this sense, and they keep selling protein. Most of them don't even know the 4 main ingredients in protein or what it even does. Other than, well, mix big antlers. Yeah, it does, but it does a lot more things too. But the deer can get that protein, maybe not that high in density, but like I said, we bastardize our athletes if they take steroids and performance enhancements. But we turn a blind eye, and I went over that in another video. But what I'm trying to say, food plotting for wildlife is a lot more different than just dumping dope on the ground in a pile with an attractant to attract deer, and that's where you get the disease problem. When you look across my food plots, there's acreages out there. The deer are dispersed, they're not under stress, they're not eating out of the same pile of dope a deer a day. One deer gets sick, the whole herd's going to get sick. That's what I bitch about. But people today, as they prostitute our deer herds out, that they had nothing to do with making them, other than sitting back and reaping the rewards, and now it's trying to skew the record books by growing the monsters of the Midway through doping them. All you're doing is going down the wrong road. We had a epidemic here last year with the bird flu. Had to annihilate the whole turkey and chicken population. Is that what you want in a wild deer herd? And remember, when you keep talking about your herd, you don't own a herd unless you're a farmer. That's the people's natural resource that you're screwing with. I'm not bragging about my food plots. I'm just showing you the difference between food plots and dope-a-deer. Dope-a-deer, dump it in a pile. You go in any big box store, you see the deer eating out of a dirt hole. Those deer aren't inoculated like cattle are, or any livestock. At birth, the vet comes out, pulls the animal, inoculates them, checks them for them, sends them on their way. That way, when they interact in their herd, they're not going to spread that disease. Unfortunately, people don't care. They're only caring about their 5 seconds of glory on a Facebook picture with something that's unnatural, because they induced it by loading them up with protein and making their antlers grow at a faster rate. So when I bitch about that, that's the foundation that I'm bitching about. You may put minerals in the ground if you're lacking them, but here in the Midwest, there is absolutely no need to put those mineral licks out. The minerals are in what you eat. Our ground is so heavily laden with minerals, when it grows up through the root system, goes straight into the deer. But like I said, I don't plant food plots for deer only, because that'd be a waste of money if you got to thinking about it. But if you want to enhance every aspect of nature, of wildlife, planting food plots and a variety of them, something will forage on them. And it doesn't mean you got to kill them just because they're foraging on them. It means that you did your part on helping, Mother Nature in a way to disperse it out in a way that there's not a lot of stress. You know what stress is? Stress is standing in a line at a convenience store trying to get coffee out of the same coffee dispenser at 7 o'clock in the morning when there's 25 people there at that same dispenser. None of them wearing gloves. If one of them's got a cold in there and he's touching your cup or touching whatever, sooner or later, that's how colds get spread. Same way. So then you got to go to the doctor to get your medicine to get rid of the cold. But unfortunately, the wildlife don't have that doctor. So if they get sick and they pass it through the herd, they're going to be dead. And like me, not me, I don't even care. I'm at the age now, I'm just telling you my opinion, and I'm pretty sound on what's going on out there. Might as well take all the Boone and Crockett record books and all the Pope and Young record books and build one big fire and throw them in there and burn them, because now they no longer represent what they were intended to represent. Theodore Roosevelt came up with the Boone and Crockett Club. Main reason was document the decline in the quality of big game animals in North America. That got proved wrong. But now we're skewing those numbers by going out and doing unnatural things with this dope-a-deer and high minerals and attractant and all that. It's, well, one word, garbage. Yeah, I'll draw deer, I'll draw turkeys, I'll draw bobcats, I'll draw coyotes, I'll draw every little critter that needs to fill its stomach out here. And I'll just help them be that much more tolerant of the situation. Because when I pan around here to the timber, those timbers offer very little food in there. But when you do get out and you put some cultivated crops in, you're helping Mother Nature feed the wildlife. You know, my hat's off to you people that have took up the challenge and felt the rewards, seen the rewards in food plotting. Some of you are up against the wall where you're planting your food plots because you have such devastation when you plant them and you're the only one that's feeding wildlife. When those wild critters find your plot, it gets consumed in a hurry, and that can be downright disheartening. But don't let it get you down, because you did your part. You did what you set out. You set out to feed the wildlife, a diversified group of wildlife, not just the white-tailed deer. So when the turkeys eat it, and the rabbits and whatever else, groundhogs, bears, they come out to graze in your clover and stuff like that, you still won. Because there wasn't nothing there for them to even come to until you did that. So don't let it get you down. It just means that you're in an area where the deer and the wildlife are benefiting from your efforts, and in a big way. It's because they browse it right down, because that's telling you there's no other available food in the area, and you did your part. I know it could be depressing, but here what you're looking at with my situation, I'm in Iowa, so it's a different situation. The soils are different. The density of the deer herds and the wildlife, the turkey and stuff, are spread out over thousands of acres. And because there's so much ag industry around, that you don't get quite the over browsing and grazing of your plot as fast as what some of you unfortunately do. But like I said, that's not a bad thing, because you're doing your part in nature. You're giving back. And so just keep an open mind and a smile on your face. And I know it's hard to do when you've done that much labor and expense, but you have made a difference. So, like I said, and I'm not bragging. Like I say, I'm blessed to be living here in Iowa, and my results may be a little different than some of yours, and I'll be upfront about that. But I don't need dope to bring deer around, and I don't need dope to skew the numbers, man-made numbers in a scorebook. Like I said, as I stand here, I know some of you don't have this, and I'm sure in the heck ain't gonna flaunt it. There's your forage beans, what was left of the power plant, the sun hemp. The sunflowers were really sucked. They didn't even produce seed. They're basically oil, so I got no benefit from them. The sun hemp didn't grow that height until late into the season, way past the basically antler growth. So whatever proteins that they would have gave, it was insignificant. But you're standing in here in a Nebraska field, an ag field of beans and an ag field of corn. And you know, no one deer is going to have to browse in this place ever. He can browse in one spot and never touch that spot again. But it's a whole different scenario when you dump a bag of dope on the ground and then set a trail camera up and a stand over it and go, I done something. You sure did. Now, that's it from the Non-Typical Norwalkian. Whether it's in the field or on the checkerboard, play the game fair. You'll be far more rewarding, winning or losing. Cheating is for losers. Period.